Welcome to Sharing Success, the podcast where we turn inspiration into action. I'm Tyson Krager, your host, here to guide you on a journey of growth, motivation, and self-discovery. In each episode, I'll share powerful lessons, actionable tips, and uplifting insights to help you achieve your goals and create a life you love. Whether you're here to find clarity, build confidence, or simply get inspired, you're in the right place. Let's start building your success story, one step at a time. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sharing Success, Season 2, Episode 3. This episode is titled Taking Action on Your Goals for the Year. I want to welcome you guys and thank you for tuning in. We have a little housekeeping to start off with. So, first things first, I wish I could say that I was a consistent queen in the last few months, but I have not been. And one of the common themes with success is knowing when to pivot. And I enjoy this podcast so much. I truly do. But in order to be consistent like I want to be, I know that my current setup isn't doing me any favors. I'm trying to do too much. I'm trying to upload videos and the audio as well. I'm trying to schedule guests. And right now, I can accept that my workload does not accommodate that. So, in an effort to keep the podcast running smoothly, and to be releasing more consistent episodes for my listeners, I am going to start only releasing audio episodes of the podcast. Here and there, when my schedule allows, I will release a video episode, but the general baseline is going to be audio episodes. I know that that may be a disappointment to some of you, but I do think that this will help me to continue to get content out to you guys still and to do so in a timely manner. The other pivot that I kind of wanted to take with the podcast is kind of like I mentioned earlier, it is a lot trying to schedule guests every episode. When I asked myself what my original vision was for this podcast, it was so everybody could have actionable insights about success and how to achieve that. And I loved having guests on, and we are still going to have guests on every now and then. It just won't be every episode. I really love these solo episodes where I'm kind of teaching and I'm sharing tips, and we will have some great topics that we're going to go over as well. Trust me, you are still going to get so much value, and we will have some guests sprinkled here and there. But right now, this is definitely a format that I enjoy, and it's something that works for me. So I appreciate all of your understanding, you kind of bearing with me as we pivot throughout this podcast. It's definitely been a learning episode, but overall, this is something I want to continue with. And like I said before, everybody who achieves success knows how to pivot when you hit a roadblock, and this is what I'm doing. So, with that housekeeping being taken care of and us kind of chatting about the new direction of the podcast, we are going to hop right into this episode. If you guys haven't listened or watched the last episode, go ahead and do that, because we talked about setting goals for the new year. And I think that that's a really great foundation to hop into this next episode, which is going to be taking action on your goals for the year. And I really wanted to do this topic for this episode because there's so much hype around setting goals, and I don't feel like there's enough hype around the follow up. The fun part of doing new and exciting things is setting those goals, right? The not so fun part is going to be following through with that. So that's really what I wanted to emphasize in this episode. I really wanted to dive into it so you guys can put this in your toolkit and you can use it now that you've made those awesome goals. You can use it to stay consistent with those. We're going to talk about now the power of taking action and why it matters. Something that's pivotal is you need to understand that there's a distinct difference in the mindset shift from goal setting to goal doing. I was so excited. I had so much fun making and updating my vision board for the new year. But in order to make those dreams, visions, whatever you call it, a reality, I actually need to do it. I need to follow through. And at first, that seems really overwhelming. At first, you look at where you are, point A, and you look at what's on that vision board, point Z, and you're like, I don't know how I'm going to get there. There's two things that are important. Number one, reassure yourself you are going to get there. I think that's what's important throughout this whole process is keeping the faith and realizing that you absolutely are going to get there because that desire wouldn't have been placed on your heart for a reason. And number two is in order to get from point A to point Z, you need to break it down. There are steps along the way. Somebody doesn't realize that they want to be a medical doctor, and then the next day they go and apply for positions at hospitals. There are steps in between there, and so you need to break that up into smaller steps. You need to realize that you need to take prerequisites in order to get into med school. So you take the prerequisites. Once you complete that small goal, you need to apply to different med schools. Once you get into med school, you need to go through all the schooling. So breaking things down is really going to help you get from not just setting goals, but actually achieving them. And something that's really cool is the idea that action is going to breed clarity and it's going to breed confidence. So I want you to take comfort in the thought that once you start breaking down these goals into smaller bite-sized chunks and you start achieving those small pieces of the goal, you are going to gain clarity. You are going to gain confidence, and it's all going to become a lot easier. And then before you know it, you feel like you should only be at point C, but you're already at point Z. You're there. You've accomplished your goal. So once you get that momentum, it's really easy to keep riding that high and ultimately achieve your goals. So please keep that in mind. Don't let the thought of there being several smaller goals in front of your big goal discourage you. Because if anything, that should provide you comfort knowing that you have an action plan. There is a way to get to where you want to go. Think about it like building a puzzle, right? You don't just put all the pieces on the table and the puzzle is magically finished. You need to, piece by piece, put it together and enjoy how it comes out. It does take work, though. It definitely does take work. So I kind of want to break up taking action on your goals into a few different steps. We already kind of talked about the first one, but I just want to give a bit more clarity to this point. So we already talked about it, but we want to make sure that we are breaking these goals into manageable steps. I already gave you a few examples of what that would look like. Think about the becoming a medical doctor example. But I want to talk about reverse engineering your goals. If you're struggling with trying to break up your big goal into small pieces that you can achieve, a great way to do that is to use the concept of reverse engineering. And that is going to be starting at the end point and working your way backwards, walking backwards from there. And that's going to give you the steps that you need to take. So, say if somebody, let's use that medical doctor analogy again. If somebody didn't know how to become a medical doctor and they didn't know the steps that entailed, they would say, okay, I know this person who's a medical doctor. I know for a fact that they went to school for however many years. So I know that that's going to be one of my pieces. Let me call them up and let's see how they even got into med school and what that entailed. And so and so. And that gives you even more clarity on the other pieces of that puzzle that you're putting together. It's all about starting with the outcome and working backward to figure out the actionable steps that you need to take. And once you have these actionable steps, these smaller, more manageable goals that are going to precede your big giant goal, there are a lot of different tools that you can utilize for planning and organizing to ensure that you can make it happen. Some of my favorite tools to accomplish my goals are anything that has to do with making lists. I am an absolute list person. And so each day I actually have a set of goals that I know I want to accomplish, and I work off of that. So, speaking of kind of working from smaller goals into more broad goals, what you can do is incorporate your goals into your schedule. Um, just to give you a snapshot of something that's helped me is at the beginning of every week, I will hop onto my notes app on my phone and I list out all the days of the week. And under each one of those days, I have bullet points with the habits that I do every day without fail. So, go to the gym, read a book, make sure I take my dog for a walk, make sure that I get my work done, stuff like that. And I also fill in, special things or things that are out of the ordinary. So I know that on Tuesday I have this appointment. I know that I'm going to dinner with this person on Friday. So at the beginning of every week, I'll fill out my weekly schedule, right? Super easy. Everybody does that. Something that really has helped me though is day by day, I have a separate note, and that is my individual to-do list for that day. I'm taking my big goals for the week and I'm turning them into something more manageable that I can go for right now and get done. And so for, example, the note will be titled Monday. And I'll copy and paste what I have on my big schedule under Monday, and then I'll add any other things that I need to do that day. Well, I know that today I need to fold my load of laundry. Just like the smaller things, I know that today I need to go drop that package off at the post office. All of those things. So I have everything right there. Here's what I need to get done today. And in the morning, as I start my day and I get my routine going, I have a few minutes in there where I will plan out, okay, I know that here is all that I have to do today. Let's plan that out, kind of what time we're going to do stuff. Let's fit things in there and we'll make it happen. And that is generally a great way to take something that's big and overwhelming and break it down into bite-sized chunks. And so, please do that with your goals. Work them into your daily habits, into your schedules. As you're breaking these down, make sure that you are scheduling these things out to take actionable steps. Now we're going to hop into the next step. So, step one was breaking goals into manageable steps, and step two is going to be building momentum through these habits. I want to build off of what we were just talking about and kind of expand on the idea of those daily habits as the foundation of success. We talked about how when you're scheduling out individual days, there are some things that you know that you have to do every day. They're just those habits. You want to get them done, right? And a lot of people don't realize the importance of those in achieving your bigger goals, right? The consistency, the routine, the dedication to yourself that those smaller habits take reinforce the idea that you can make bigger things happen. If you are not sure what habit to incorporate in order to make your goal happen, I want to talk about a little bit of the science behind habit formation. So, typically, there's a trigger that is going to lead to a routine, which is going to lead to a reward. This cycle is called a habit loop, and it reinforces the idea that habit formation is a neurological process and it follows a predictable cycle. So there's the trigger that we spoke about earlier. The trigger or cue is going to be the spark that starts the habit. A trigger is going to be anything that initiates the habit or that prompts you to take action. So it could be external, like time of day or a specific location, or it could be internal, like a thought or a feeling. So, for example, seeing somebody Seeing your running shoes by the door reminds me that I need to go for a jog. And just kind of a side note as a tip here, to establish a new habit, a good way to do that is to intentionally associate it with a consistent trigger. So this could be something like brushing your teeth, which would trigger flossing, or your morning coffee. That's going to be a trigger for journaling. So if you want to kind of work a new habit into your schedule, associate it with something that's a bit more consistent. That's also called habit stacking. So while you brush your teeth, you could also listen to affirmations, just things like that. The next part of the habit loop is going to be routine. So we had trigger, and this is the routine or the behavior, and this is going to be the action that you take. It's the actual habit or the behavior itself. And this part of the cycle is where you are going to take the action based on the trigger. So an example of this is after I see my running shoes, I'm going to lace them up and head out for a jog. This is something that you want to start small and build over time. Something that you can aim for is a 2-minute rule where your habit is so easy that it almost feels effortless. For example, instead of committing to a 30-minute workout right away, start by putting on workout clothes and doing 2 minutes of activity. Then you're going to work yourself up to 5, then 10. And before you know it, that routine, that behavior is just going to become part of your habit. And the last part of this habit loop is going to be reward. So, this is going to be the payoff that reinforces the habit. The reward is going to be the positive outcome or the satisfaction and feeling of fulfillment that you feel after completing the habit. It's kind of what tells your brain, hey, this is worth repeating. We want to keep doing this. So, after my jog, I always feel a sense of accomplishment. I enjoy that endorphin rush, and I feel really proud of myself that I did something that I told myself I was going to do. It's important here that you choose rewards that align with your goals rather than work against them. So please keep that in mind. For instance, if your habit is going to be you want to eat healthier and you reward yourself with something that doesn't align with that, it's just going to be counterproductive to you establishing the habit that you want to. So, in an instance like that, you could reward yourself with something that's non food related, like watching an episode of your favorite show or taking a really fancy and relaxing bath, something along those lines. Now that we have covered building momentum through habits, let's talk about step 3 to making your goals happen, which is overcoming roadblocks and challenges. So, there are so many obstacles that you are going to run into when you're trying to accomplish a goal. You're going to run into procrastination, fear of failure, imposter syndrome, lack of time, lack of funds. There's so many things that can be considered a roadblock, right? There are some strategies to overcome these, though. Let's talk about some common ones. So, for procrastination, break your tasks into 5-minute intervals. So, if you're really procrastinating something, tell yourself, well, I'm just going to do a little bit of it and then give yourself a reward. Once you've done that, so an example of this, let's break this down a bit more. If I am procrastinating folding my laundry, I am going to say, well, I'm going to fold my laundry for 5 minutes and then I get to watch 5 minutes of a show. And I'm going to repeat that cycle until my laundry's done. So reinforce getting stuff done with a reward. Because ultimately, that's how that habit loop is going to be built, anyways. Kind of like we talked about earlier. You want to reinforce the good things that you want to keep doing with a reward. Let's break down the fear of failure. Something that's really going to help when you are afraid of not performing your best or not living up to the standards that you have set for yourself, is ask yourself not what happens if I fail, but what am I going to learn from this, no matter the outcome? If you can shift your focus from outcomes to learning, to life experience, to gaining more knowledge, finding yourself out more, stuff like that, your fear of failure goes away because you realize that whether you meet this goal or not in a specific time frame under certain conditions, whatever it may be, whether that happens or not, you still are going to walk away with something. You can never go through something and walk away unchanged. And I hope that you remember that. So even if you are striving for a goal, even if you've tried and you've taken this test multiple times and you keep failing, realize that every time you are studying for that test, you are getting smarter. That is a fact. And that can be applied to everything in life. You are not walking away from these perceived failures unscathed. You are coming out in essence a new person because you are equipped with more knowledge, more experience. So I hope you can remember that when the fear of failure kind of creeps up on you. Another common issue that a lot of us face is going to be lack of time. Something that you can do is you can prioritize time blocking. For time blocking, kind of like I was talking about earlier, let's structure our day around the priorities that we have. So make sure that you're dividing your day into dedicated time segments for specific things that you know you want to get done. Instead of working from a long to-do list, schedule those tasks directly into your calendar. So kind of like we were talking about earlier, I do have that list of things that I need to accomplish during the day. But in the morning before I get going on that, I'm going to time block and I'm going to say, I know all these things that I have to do. Here's where I'm going to do them. And that is going to hold you accountable to get stuff done if you know that you have to get it done within a certain time frame. Another way to combat lack of time is something called the Eisenhower matrix. So, this is where you decide what is worth your time. It's also called the urgent important matrix. And what this does is it helps you categorize tasks into 4 quadrants based on urgency and importance. So, quadrant 1 is urgent and important. So, this is tasks that require immediate attention and have significant consequences if they are not done. Examples of this would be deadlines, crises, emergencies, all of that. So, you know that you need to do these tasks first. Quadrant 2 is going to be not urgent, but important. So these are going to be tasks that contribute to long-term goals, personal growth, and meaningful outcomes. So examples of these are going to be planning or learning new skills, working on a passion project, and with these, you can schedule these tasks to make sure that they don't get overshadowed by urgency. So you're still making sure that these have space within your time blocks. Quadrant 3 is urgent but not important. So these are tasks that feel pressing but don't significantly contribute to your goals. So examples could be unnecessary meetings, chores around the house, tasks that others could handle but are still on your to-do list. These are things that the action here is that you can delegate these tasks or you can minimize them so they're not taking up so much of your time. If one of these tasks in quadrant 3 was that you need to clean out the refrigerator, and you just didn't have time to do that on top of everything else, that would be something that you would see if you could delegate. If you can't delegate, you're going to minimize it. You're going to say, I'm going to only dedicate 5 minutes to this a day until it's done. Quadrant 4 is going to be not urgent and not important. So these are tasks that they don't add value to your goals or priorities. So scrolling social media, watching TV too much, things like that that aren't really aligning with goals or priorities. So these are things that you know that you can reduce, and they don't necessarily have to be time blocked in. So that's another way. If you are struggling with a lack of time, you can work on kind of compartmentalizing your tasks into these 4 categories, and that will tell you what action to take in order to make sure that you're only doing what's worth your time. With overcoming roadblocks and challenges when we are trying to achieve our goals, something to remember is that you do not have to be perfect. You just have to start. And I hope that you can remember that when you run into things that will inevitably force you to pivot or reconsider your priorities. You do not have to be perfect. You just have to take action, and you just need to start. So, step 4 to achieving our goals is going to be check ins and celebrating small wins. The importance of regular goal reviews is so unmatched. Make sure that you are making time for, I would say, weekly. We could go monthly or quarterly, though, check ins. I do advocate for a weekly, though. You want to make sure that every week you're assessing where you're at on your goals, what steps you're taking towards those goals, if there's anything you need to work on, anything like that. A simple framework for kind of evaluating this is, hey, what was working this week? What's not working? What needs adjustment? How can I adjust that? What are some ways to move forward? You're just asking yourself the questions about these goals that are going to make sure that you're moving forward in the right direction. And then another thing that's important is going to be celebrating even the smallest of wins to make sure that you are keeping yourself motivated. So, what did I do great this week? Well, I got this much further in my journey of achieving this goal. I went out and did this, and I'm so proud of myself. Just make sure that you are recognizing the things that you're accomplishing. Go share this with people. Let people celebrate with you as well. Post it on social media. Hype yourself up. This is, if you can continue to celebrate your small wins, and you can do it as loudly and as proudly as possible, it's really going to help your momentum. It's going to help that motivation, and it's going to ultimately fuel you to keep pushing. Something that I really want to talk about as well is we want to make sure that we are keeping the vision alive. So maybe bookmark, this part of the episode and revisit it when you feel like you're lacking motivation, or you just need to pick me up, because I have to do this every so often when I lose sight of my goals, and it really helps. So I'm going to guide you through a short visualization, and I hope that it will reignite that flame within you, and it will remind you why you want to achieve your goals. I want to invite you to get comfortable, minimize distractions, and get ready to walk through this visualization exercise with me. If you're in a place where it's safe to do so, close your eyes or just focus inward if you are multitasking. And I want you to take a deep breath in and slowly exhale. I want you to allow yourself to relax and just let your mind focus on this moment. I want you to imagine your future self achieving your goals. Imagine it's 1 year from now. You've worked hard and you've stayed consistent, and now you've achieved your biggest goal. Picture yourself in this moment of success. What do you see? Where are you? Who is with you? What are you doing? I want you to feel the emotions that come with that achievement. Are you feeling pride, joy, excitement? How does it feel to know that you've made it? I want you to feel these feelings in your soul. And I want you to take a moment to notice the details. Maybe it's a promotion at work, a healthier and more confident version of yourself, or a dream project completed. I want you to picture it as clearly as you can. Every detail. And when you're ready, gently open your eyes and take a moment to jot down what you saw, what you felt during that visualization. Write it down. Write about your future self and the specific details that stood out to you, and how you can bring that version of yourself into today's actions. Overall, I just really want to remind you that the version of you that you just saw is within reach. Every action that you take today is going to bring you one step closer to becoming that person. And you are deserving and you are worthy of being that person. I want you to hold on to that vision and trust in the process and take one step forward, starting now. So, kind of to recap what we've talked about today, there are a few steps that are going to help you to take action when you're achieving your goals. You want to make sure that you're breaking your goals into manageable steps. You want to make sure that you're building that momentum through habits. And you want to make sure that you're prepared to overcome roadblocks and challenges. I hope that you know, and I hope that you can take away from this episode that taking action is going to be the bridge between where you're currently standing and where you want to be. And I hope that you can share one step that you'll take today. Either write it down in a journal, share it on social media, share it with a friend or a family member, somebody that will hold you accountable. You can even send me an email so you can be held accountable. But if you're feeling inspired and if you're feeling momentum right now, please act on that. I hope that you guys enjoyed this episode. I would love if you tune in for next week's episode. We are going to talk about overcoming imposter syndrome and becoming your biggest cheerleader. It is going to be such a fun episode. And like I said earlier, I just hope that you know you are worthy of your dreams. And taking action is going to help you achieve that. Knowing that you deserve your wildest dreams, your biggest, most hairy, audacious goals are absolutely within reach if you just believe in yourself. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really appreciate having you here. I appreciate your endless support, and I can't wait to see how you crush your goals. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Sharing Success. If you enjoyed what you listened to today, I'd love it if you could take a moment to subscribe to my YouTube channel for even more inspiring content, leave a review for the podcast, or share this episode with someone who could use a little motivation today. Your support means the world and helps me to keep growing this amazing community. And as always, remember to keep striving, keep sharing, and keep succeeding. I'll see you next time.